We have with us this evening Mr. Ryoji Takahashi. He has come all the way from Japan. He is a foremost expert on architecture and engineering solutions to how to reduce how to make risk reduction in earthquakes. He has several years of experience, I would say decades of experience in earthquake risk reduction in several countries. So we are here, we welcome you, Mr. Ryoji. It is a pleasure to receive you at NDMA today.
Me too.
And I will request you to make a brief introduction of yourself.
Yes, my name is Ryoji Takahashi from Oriental Consultants Global, one of the leading consulting company in Japan, mainly implementing the overseas development assistance in developing countries. And I myself started my career in 1997, and just the following year I was participated for the disaster risk reduction and management project. In other words, microzonation, seismic microzonation of the Tehran, Iran, is my first project involved in disaster risk reduction and management. Since that time, almost 30 years, I've been dedicating my career in this field, especially for the seismic risk assessment, as well as based on result, we make the master plan or mitigation plan, then follow up for the implementation. So I've been supporting this cycle, and also if the big earthquake occurred in several countries, I go straight to there, and I do some support for early recovery and reconstruction. And recently, I was working in the World Bank, and at that time, my responsible region was the Middle East and the North Africa region. And there was big explosion at the time, and there was the big flood occurred. So I straight go there and do a PDMA, the post-disaster needs assessment as well. And then I formulated the project to support. So basically, I'm not for the response person, but mainly how to mitigate damage from the disasters. So I have also some experience working in the domestic market, actually in Japan. And most of the local government and the central government implement risk assessment. This is the first step for mitigating damage from the disaster. So I also involved for that. So maybe I can explain later about what is the risk assessment and other topics.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. So the first question I'd like to ask you is that you mentioned risk assessment. You said you started your risk assessment career basically looking at Tehran and Iran, which was late 1990s. So what exactly is seismic microzonation? If you can, in common terms, explain that to us, and then tell us that how is that field developed, seismic microzonation? What do you do actually on the ground? What is seismic microzonation?
Yes. I try to explain as easy as possible, not using too much technical terms. Seismic microzonation is firstly, simply saying, we estimate the shaking level. If this fault line moves, then earthquake triggered, then what will be the shaking level in each location? We know this location is this level of the shaking, very strong, and this location is far from the fault line, so it's less shaking level. But this shaking level changes based on the soil condition. Soil condition is like whether it is sand or mud, depend on the soil profile. If the soft ground, it generates very long wave earthquake. But if the ground is very hard, it like very short wave, and will reach to the surface. So even the location is different. If the soft ground is here, so it generates or amplify. In the technical the word we use amplification. So it changes the shaking level. even
Okay.
it is far from the.
So once this shaking level or the microzonation is done, then you know which part of the city you need to make what kind of buildings. That is the main purpose?
After we know the shaking level, we want to put all the assets on top of the ground. For example, main one is the building. All the building will be allocated, collecting all the data for the building, including the structure, year of the construction, and also the number of the story. Then based on this, we try to calculate what will be the damage in specific area, like heavily damaged, moderately damaged, slightly damaged. Then we can aggregate this data by the small unit, like a municipality level and also the community level. Then based on this, we can make the plan. But not only the building. The uniqueness of this seismic microzonation, the risk assessment, and widely implemented in Japan is that we estimate the human casualty. I don't want to say, but how many people will lead to death and how many people will be injured. Those are the main human casualty. Then we evaluate the building damage, and we also evaluate the infrastructure damage, like roads and bridges. Then we will also evaluate the lifelines, like water supply, electric supplies, mobile operation, and some other, like gas as well.
Okay.
Yes. And also the most important is also we want to evaluate the critical facility like governmental building. They need to stand
Hospital.
Hospital and schools. Yeah, those are also included in this risk assessment.
So
Not only the damage,
Okay.
but also the economic loss.
yes.
Will
yes.
calculate.
So damage and loss.
Yes, yes.
So you had also been mentioning about doing something in Manila about this microzonation and how it was used for urban
Yes,
planning.
yes.
And you had compared it with your 2004 work and compared it with your recent visit just before you came here.
Yes, yes.
So could you tell us about that?
Yes. About exactly 20 years ago, it was in 2004. We call it MIRS, the Metro Manila Earthquake Impact Reduction Study Project was conducted. And this was the second country that JICA supported. And we have invited all stakeholders for implementation of this project. The firstly, like NDMA in Manila we call it OCD, Office of Civil Défense. And also we invited FIBOX. This is a seismology, the center, seismological center. And thirdly, the MMDA is Metro Manila Development Authority that is responsible for the keeping the safety and the development planning of the Metro Manila. And also we involved all the line ministries, researchers, get together to implement this study.
This was in 2004.
2004.
So what did you see 20 years down the road when you were there?
Actually, I didn't have a chance to go back there. And I have the 20 years gap. This time I stayed 3 weeks and visited all the stakeholders, including the private sector. I actually feel so happy and also surprised. They are fully utilized of the result, and that result was the base for making the plan and the implementation. For example, in that study, we have also estimated the possible isolation or separation of the Metro Manila because of the bridge damage and building damage. There is a certain area that can be separated into the 4 parts, cannot access cross, so that the emergency response vehicle cannot be reached to that area. So they have to do their emergency response activity in their isolated area. So based on this, they made some kind of the urban redevelopment plan, and also that try to enhance the area which might damage the bridges, try to retrofit the bridges. And also they use the information about community activities, as well as central government establish the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Committee that is led by the president. So they have the periodical meeting utilizing not only the result of the project, but they have formulated a plan based on this, and they discuss about what is the progress and what needs to be improved for the future. So this kind of the direction has been made. And also for the land use planning, they have there is in the center of the Metro Manila there is a fault line, so they put the buffer not to construct the building alongside of the fault line, and this is only the sample, but in many cases they have utilized the result.
So Manila has a fault line running in the middle of Manila.
Yes, actually.
Okay, all I can say is wow. And they have an entire city on the fault line.
Yes.
So that is very impressive work done by you. So I would take you same place to Manila. You must have recommended base isolation of buildings. And in your other experience also.
Base isolation, you mean
the rollers?
Isolation.
The rollers. Is that what it's called all over the world?
Yes.
So is that a means of safety of, like Delhi resides in zone 4. India has 4 zones, zone 2, 3, 4 and 5. So Delhi is in zone 4. So do you think that buildings should be made with base isolation?
There's some discussion about this. Not all the isolation devices should not be applied for all the building. Maybe it might be effective for the high-rise building, because if the long wave earthquake occurred, it generates a very big shake, and it might collapse on top of the building. So those high-rise building might be utilized the isolation, but it needs to be installed from the beginning of the construction. It's going to be so difficult if wants to do it as a utilization, as a retrofitting.
That is not possible. So how do you react to this, that there are, like in Japan, I believe that you were in fact telling us yesterday that in Japan that there is a certain sign there is on the certification given to a condominium maker or an office building maker. So once that sign is there, you get lower premium for your insurance, and the builder's product sells better because it is earthquake resistant and it is certified. So what is the difficulty in doing that?
Actually, there's no difficulty itself. The people consider the profit from the safety of the building, basically, because everybody knows that there is no safe area in Japan against earthquake. So we have no place to evacuate. I mean, anyway, any location there is a possibility of the occurrence of the earthquake. So we understand we need to have the investment for the house, the safety house. So we found the value. So in the advertisement of the real estate for renting the house or renting the apartment, there is a sign that shows that this is seismic resistant building, and then most of them prefer to rent. Of course, the very poor student might cannot afford to stay there, so they have to stay the very old wooden houses. This is not apply the very old building code, so it might happen. But yeah, this safety building of the safety put additional values. That's people prefer to buy.
Good thing. So that is very informative. So let's come to the building codes. So building codes implementation is basically a regulatory job. But how do you implement building codes in smaller municipalities, small towns, villages? What is the way forward on that?
In Japan, we don't have, of course, there is a very small municipality and the town, the office that have the very minimum, the official for the building permit process. But now the building permit process and also the inspection is done by the private sector as well.
Okay.
They allocated some law for them to do it. And it is quite working. I mean, there's not very much space to make the illegal building in Japan. Of course, still, I cannot say 100%, but at least I can say 98% is comply with building code at least.
So you made a very important point in your previous response. It just came to my mind again that earthquake resistant building may make you spend a little more money by cost on your balance sheet. However, in Japan, it is seen as a profit-making venture. So what you're essentially saying is that if you're increasing a bit of the cost right now in making the building by making it more earthquake resilient, you will actually get much more sale and much more brand value.
So I want to express this word. The disaster risk reduction effort is not expenditure, but investment for the future.
Brilliant, brilliant. That is a very nice tagline for us. That disaster risk is not expenditure, but it is an investment for safety. It's an investment for much more sale, much better brand.
Maybe this investment not appeared or actually cannot see in your lifetime, but this investment continue for your next generation, your family, so that this is investment for the purchasing, the safety for your next generation.
Okay. So another question we will now go to is retrofitting. Now retrofitting is seen as a very theoretical construct, that retrofitting, okay, yeah, it must be something. So how does a person who is living in a small town in the Himalayas, who has maybe a double-storied house, which is made of, walls are made of cement and his slab is made of RCC. So how does he retrofit his house?
I think the methodology is quite different from Japanese way and the Indian way. So the structure is totally different. But mainly what I see in the similar country like you is mostly the RC frame, what we call it the confined masonry, with some, it's like masonry, but with concrete band. The cement band is exists.
RCC so with a concrete band like this. Okay.
So it makes it slightly stronger than the masonry, the simple masonry building. But mostly the damage is done by the collapse of the wall, and it comes inside the building and it traps the people and kill the people. So if we can prevent the falling down, the collapse of the wall, I think it can at least keep the safety. But of course, this needs to have the research. Okay. And I cannot say that this is safe enough.
So can these bands that you mentioned, in an existing house, these bands can be made?
Not additionally, it's originally there.
So additionally, what can we do?
I think it has to be control, put some cement on top with the mesh, the metal, then they put it both sides. But of course, this is just from my experience in the past. Okay. It can be possible, but sometimes you have to think about the retrofitting costs more than reconstruction. Sometimes it happens. So this is a kind of the diagnosis is necessary, and decide and evaluate whether it is cheaper to deconstruct or cheaper to retrofit, and also to keep the safety, enough safety. So of course, the methodology for the retrofitting or diagnosis of the residential houses in poor construction needs to be.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
So, our last question I will ask you is that how important is insurance, not just earthquake, but for disasters? How important is insurance? I mean, do you pay insurance for your house in Japan? And
Yes.
is it compulsory?
Yes, actually, it's not compulsory. The resident can decide whether you want to apply for this and take this premium, pay premium for the earthquake insurance. Actually, in Japan, that it has developed in the decades, so that it's quite the long history. And now I understand that only 30% of the residents
Okay.
use this the insurance. I myself is a disaster risk management specialist. I want to keep my house safe, so I constructed very strong type of the building, and also I use the insurance. Usually I pay like $300 per year.
$300?
Per year.
Okay, okay. Interesting. So, we will wind up now. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Takahashi, for
Yes,
having
my
come to
pleasure.
India, for having joined us in this conversation.
Yes.
We wish you the very best, and let's hope we can
Yeah,
continue
please
to meet.
invite again
Thank
in
you.
the future.
Thank
Thank
you
you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.